There is one creature remembered in the legends of almost every human culture that's ever existed. A creature depicted with remarkable similarity by the Chinese, the Aztecs, even the Inuit, who live in a frozen land where no reptiles are found. Even they have stories of this animal, the dragon. Cultures from different continents, people who had no contact with one another, yet all of them have stories describing the same mythical animal. Could it be these stories were more than myth? What if we discovered that this creature that haunts our imagination had once been real? If dragons were real, then what were they really like? How did they fly and how did they breathe fire? Why did they die out? To unlock these secrets, we'd need to find physical evidence, evidence revealed by the slow retreat of a melting glacier. What if we found a body? The Carpathian Mountains of northeastern Romania, a remote place. The last stronghold of Europe's great predators, wolves, bears, and lynx. And according to legend, here is where another great predator made its last stand. A legend that has found new life. Alpine skiers who ventured into these mountains stumbled upon a network of ice caves opened by an unseasonably warm winter. What they found inside required official investigation. A brutal medieval crime scene. The remains of human bodies dressed in 15th century armor. Men entombed in a mountain cave. And in the last chamber lay the creature that had sealed their fate over 500 years ago. A dragon carcass, completely intact, perfectly preserved for centuries in glacial ice, carefully excavated for scientific study. If the legends were in fact true, then it was fated that some form of physical proof would eventually be found. With this discovery, scientists can finally uncover the true nature of dragons. And with this find, other clues suggesting the origins of dragons might now be illuminated. The fossil remains of a Tyrannosaurus rex, the king of dinosaurs, the crown of its skull scarred by what look like talon marks. An impact injury sustained from above. Here are the telltale signs of an ancient species of dragon that lived millions of years before the creature found in the glacier. The Cretaceous period. An age long past. When giants walked the earth. When the greatest predator ever known left its footprint on history. A period ruled by Tyrannosaurus rex. Or so we thought. Normally a stranger to this remote place. The T-Rex has been forced from his usual hunting ground. Something has been raiding his territory and food has grown scarce. He has stumbled on the lair of the most astonishing carnivore that ever lived. The prehistoric dragon. And now this dragon is in real danger. Dwarfed by the gigantic T-Rex, it attempts a bluff, extending its wings to give the appearance that it is much larger than it really is. But the ravenous Rex is an experienced hunter. He isn't fooled. So the dragon tries another strategy. A piercing shriek that briefly stuns the dinosaur. The cry carries for miles. Still, the Rex refuses to yield. And there's nowhere to hide. But the dragon still has one trick left to play. And here she comes. This is her territory, and she's defending her son. The Tyrannosaurus will not last the night. Fire is the dragon's weapon of last resort. But she delivered the final blow too late. With a broken wing, she can no longer hunt, and she can no longer feed herself or her offspring. The injury his mother sustained in the fight with the T-Rex has proved fatal. Infection and blood loss have finally taken their toll. After 2 days, her smell is already starting to attract scavengers. For the moment, they're just pterosaurs, but who knows what other creatures may pick up the scent. The young dragon lingers by his mother's body. At 6 years, his wing musculature is fully developed, but untested. Young dragons learn to fly when their mothers push them out on their own, but it's usually not as sudden as this. Our young dragon has lost his mother at a critical moment. He may never get off the ground. If he is to survive, he must discover the power of flight on his own. How did dragons get aloft? A look inside this dragon's body will reveal the most ingenious adaptation in the natural history of flight. A system that remained largely unchanged for millions of years, from the early prehistoric dragon to this species found in the ice, the mountain dragon of Western myth and legend. The initial analysis of this dragon shows other adaptations for flight besides the obvious wings. The chest points towards a clear function. It's powerful, heavily muscled, similar to what one would see on birds of prey like falcons and eagles. Preliminary internal scans of the body are more revealing. A massive heart, also indicative of powered flight. The chest muscles would need large quantities of oxygen-rich blood to maintain a steady wing beat. The bones are perfectly designed for flight too. The internal structure is very specialized. It's honeycombed, a skeletal design also found in birds, strong but very lightweight. All of these adaptations are general characteristics of powered flight. But this creature still looks too heavy to be supported by such relatively small wings. They couldn't possibly generate the kind of lift needed to get an animal this big off the ground. The wingspan measures under 20 feet, and with an initial estimated weight of 900 pounds, scientists would have to probe deeper to find the key to dragon flight. Continued scanning shows something more unusual inside the chest cavity, a pair of leathery organs resembling a second pair of lungs. The tissue walls of these organs are thin and elastic, designed to expand. They're storage sacks. What did they hold? The answer escapes with a hiss. Gas. Not gas from decomposition, the specimen is too well preserved. This gas was present while the animal was still alive. But what is it? Analysis proves the gas is composed predominantly of hydrogen. Hydrogen gas is 14 times less dense than air. Fill a balloon with hydrogen and it rises. Fill these organs with hydrogen and the principle is the same. These are the dragon's flight bladders. But how did dragons produce the hydrogen that got them off the ground? Getting off the ground. It's a problem confronting the young prehistoric dragon as well. Unable to hunt, he exploits the only food available to him. Even in death, his mother may still help him live. She may even still help him to fly. All creatures contain bacteria in their gut that help break down food, and in the process, the bacteria release metabolic byproducts. Gas. But the bacteria inside dragons are unique. They release hydrogen, and unlike other animals, a dragon's gas doesn't go to waste. The hydrogen is channeled into the two storage sacs, the dragon's flight bladders. Along with the super light skeleton, the gas-filled flight bladders are the keys to dragon flight. And now this young dragon's sophisticated flight system is about to be put to the test. While the pterosaurs wait their turn, a more dangerous creature has picked up the scent of his decomposing mother, an older male dragon. Its broken horns and dull appearance betray a dragon at the end of his days. Constant territorial battles mean that male dragons rarely reach old age. Few live past 40. Pushed from his territory by a younger and fitter male, this dragon is a nomad. He now wanders in search of food, scavenging other kills more often than making his own. But given the choice, he'd prefer fresh meat. And this time, the young dragon's mother isn't there to save him. The old nomad closes with surprising speed. The juvenile's only hope of survival is to get airborne. Cleverly, he heads for the trees. He knows the old male cannot fly here. Inside, his body is working overtime, his heart beating, his muscles pumping, hydrogen being generated at a prodigious rate. But it's still not enough. His flight bladders may be full, but so is his stomach. The undigested meat is weighing him down, and so instinct takes over. At the last moment, he empties his stomach and spreads his wings at last. The young dragon takes flight for the first time in his life. But if he's lived to fight another day, he will have to master another legendary evolutionary adaptation. He must learn to breathe fire. The body of a dragon, revealed in the melting ice of a glacier. What if such a discovery were made and the legends of this fantastic beast proved true? Scientists autopsying its remains to learn how dragons could fly would find a complex system of hydrogen gas and a super light skeletal system. But where is the physiological evidence to support the dragon's most spectacular adaptation? How did dragons breathe fire? What would this body tell us? The inner surface of the mouth is almost armor-plated. At the back of the throat, there is a fleshy valve. This flap is very similar to the false palate found in crocodile throats. Crocodiles use it to stop their lungs from flooding when grabbing prey underwater. It's a distinct adaptation, suggesting that somewhere in the dim and distant past, dragons and crocodilians might share an ancient common ancestor. But why would the dragon need a false palate? Crocodiles need a false palate to prevent water from flooding the lungs. Could dragons have used a false palate to prevent a backdraft of fire from scorching their lungs? Evidence of a fire-breathing creature? The idea isn't as far-fetched as it seems. The natural world is full of bizarre creatures that have the most extraordinary weapons. Tongues like spears, color and shape-shifting, lassos, even creatures that shoot liquid fire. This insect is well known to scientists. It's the bombardier beetle. When threatened, it fires out a burning liquid at a temperature of over 200 degrees Fahrenheit, almost boiling point. It does it by pumping a liquid fuel into a reaction chamber where a catalyst ignites the mixture. The burning chemicals have nowhere to go but out, and with a bang. Nature is not constrained by our lack of imagination, but it does observe rules. If dragons were to breathe fire, then they too would require a catalyst. With further examination of the carcass comes a strange find. The creature appears to have both incisors, meat-ripping teeth, and flattened molars, grinding teeth. Stingrays have similar teeth for grinding the rock-hard shells of mollusks that they feed on. But why would a meat-ripping predator like a dragon need specialized grinding teeth? Pulverized sediment is found on the surface enamel. Powdered rock with particularly large traces of platinum. Like the bombardier beetle, dragons needed a catalyst to trigger their chemical ignition. They used platinum. The reaction of platinum with hydrogen ignites the hydrogen. The hydrogen combusts. Dragons could breathe fire. Several years have passed, and the juvenile prehistoric dragon is now a young adult. He is homeless and without a territory. He will never mate. But his time has come. He has flown deep inside the territory of a dominant male. It is a daring act. Half of all young males are killed in territorial battles. The dull coat of adolescence has transformed into a vibrant display, designed to intimidate rival males and attract females. He prepares for the fight of his life. Before continuing, he stops to consume a rare and valuable mineral found in all dragon territories. Not a mineral to spark his energy. This is a mineral that will spark his fire. This is a platinum deposit. In the heart of his 100 square miles of territory, the resident dragon sends a blazing message into the air. It signals to challengers and females alike that he is fit, healthy, and confident enough to waste the precious resource of fire on a display. The message is not lost on our young male. If he has any chance at all of winning this duel, he must be at his very best. The stakes are high. With territory comes a guaranteed supply of food, and the one thing every young male needs if he is to leave his mark on the next generation. Females. And this female is the real reason he is here. She's in season, and for just 1 month will breed with the resident male. And here he is. His territory and his female are under threat, and he intends to deal with it. The resident is an experienced survivor, a dragon in his prime, and he's put down every challenger that's come before. He wears the dark coloration dominant males adopt when in command of a territory. He no longer displays the red markings of a bachelor. He now displays with fire. And his combat experience is immediately apparent. With his first shot, he inflicts serious damage on our dragon. The young dragon climbs for the clouds, desperate for cover and the cooling vapor. But the aggressive tactics of the resident aren't without risk. The very same hydrogen that keeps him airborne fuels his flame. The dragon's flight and fire apparatus is a binary system. Both rely on the stored hydrogen in the flight bladders. If the resident burns too much of his hydrogen reserves, he'll be forced from the sky. Our young dragon's luck can't hold forever. He flees for the border of the dominant male's territory. But the resident has misjudged his opponent. The young dragon isn't looking to escape. He's looking to strike. And he has a full payload of hydrogen left to burn. By using his weapons with consummate skill, he has triumphed. The female prepares to accept the new dragon overlord. The young dragon seems to revel in his victory. All his life he's fought the odds, and now at last he's come into his own. But his triumph will be short-lived. 65 million years ago, at the peak of the prehistoric dragon's success, a curtain comes crashing down on the Cretaceous period. A meteorite the size of Mount Everest careens into the planet, wiping out nearly all life on Earth. On land, nothing larger than a cat will survive, but in the sea, life will find a way. If dragons were more than just a myth, and the fact that nearly every human culture has a story about them more than just a universally strange coincidence, then a scientific explanation for them would be possible. Scientists could discover how dragons were able to fly and breathe fire. But if dragons had been alive since the time of the dinosaurs, then how did they survive long enough to be remembered by humankind? 65 million years ago, a meteorite 6 miles wide laid waste to nearly all life on Earth. The cataclysm is known as the KT event. It unleashed one of the greatest mass extinctions in the history of our planet. The age of dinosaurs was brought to a crashing halt. How did dragons escape this doom? The only other large creatures to survive the KT event all have one thing in common. They were aquatic. Sharks, skates, rays, coelacanths, turtles, and crocodiles. The dragon body found in the ice cave already suggests a common ancestry with an aquatic animal. The false palate found at the back of the dragon's throat is morphologically similar to the false palate of crocodiles. But crocodilians aren't close relatives. They branched off long before the first true dragon had evolved. But neither is this mountain dragon a very close relative of the prehistoric dragon that did battle with T-Rex. That ancient species was completely wiped out by the KT meteorite. This dragon developed along a different branch of the family tree. The descendants of the first primitive dragon followed very different evolutionary paths. At the time of the KT catastrophe, the prehistoric dragon was not alone. It had a cousin, a marine dragon. Water provided dragons with an escape route from one of the deadliest episodes in the Earth's history. Like other large creatures that endured the KT event, dragons swam from extinction. Over time, flight bladders had become swim bladders. Reduced wings developed into fins, and the powerful tail became a rudder. Marine dragons thrived. Then, as global temperatures rose, some marine dragons returned to the coastal margins. Moving into estuaries and traveling up rivers, it wasn't long before they made their first tentative steps back on land. Many creatures alive today made similar transitions back and forth between land and sea. If the legends are accurate, then dragons too would have re-emerged on land millions of years after the KT event. But what of their marine predecessors? How long did that line last? The sea serpent. Were these mythical creatures real too? Are sea monster legends actually accounts of marine dragons? And what of the dragons that returned to the land? Where would they have first appeared? What about dragons in Chinese mythology? These majestic creatures that symbolize strength and cunning are low-slung to the ground, short-limbed, long and slender. The kind of body one would expect from an animal that's just emerged from the water. A form that would remain well-suited for life in a dense forest. The marine dragons tempted out of the water and back onto land find that life on Earth has re-established itself. Around the globe, new habitats and new species have evolved. The era of the dinosaurs is over, and a new group of animals has risen up to fill the void: mammals. And mammals provide plentiful food for dragons. Like their ancestors, this forest dragon that inhabited Central and Southeast Asia remains a solitary and unsociable creature. She seeks others of her own kind only when looking for a mate. The wings on this dragon are vestigial. Flight isn't much use when hunting in these forests, but she can move with absolute stealth. The markings on her skin break up her outline in the dappled forest light. But her hunt is disturbed. There's an intruder in her territory. A creature that's grown bold and will come between this dragon and her prey for the last time. A creature that occupies as powerful a place in the lore and mythology of China as the dragon. The tiger. The forest dragon moves with grim purpose. A ravine will not turn back her wrath. The intruder in her territory is a real and emerging threat to her very survival. Smaller and far more mobile in the forest undergrowth, the new mammalian predators are proving accomplished hunters. The tiger senses the presence of another animal. Is it a threat, or is it prey? The dragon remains silent. She has encountered tigers before. She knows this is a wary animal, but an inquisitive animal. A slight move will be enough. The tiger's prey response is triggered. Hunger wins out over caution. He charges. Curiosity kills the cat. One less rival, one more meal. The kill is taken to a clearing. The forest dragon has retained the ancient ability of her kind. They still carry the same hydrogen-producing gut bacteria as their forebears. What were swim bladders now once again serve as fuel stores. But now the flight bladders are used almost exclusively for fire. The tiger's fur can't be easily digested, so the dragon simply scorches it away. Fire is no longer simply a weapon, but a tool. The flame draws another mammal near, and this species is even more curious and poses an even greater threat to her survival. Throughout the age of mammals, dragons remained apex predators. They still controlled a weapon no other creature could withstand: fire. But their dominance was no longer assured. The mammals had produced their challenger, man. And we coveted that which made dragons strong. We recognized the possibilities of fire. We too were cunning. Soon people learned to use fire to clear forests and to mold metal into savage weapons. With fire, we forged our strength. Over tens of thousands of years, the evolutionary blink of an eye, we forced all other creatures into submission, save one. But we had stolen the dragon's fire, and soon we would wield it against them. A burning conflict was kindled between our species, a conflict that would become the stuff of myth and legend. If dragons were more than just a myth, and the fact that nearly every human culture has a story about them more than just a strange coincidence, then the discovery of a well-preserved body, frozen for centuries in glacial ice, could tell scientists how dragons lived. But the story of how dragons finally died is already written. The engravings, drawings, and sculptures that survive from our own history. These were not works of primitive imagination. These were records, first-hand accounts made by people who lived alongside dragons and fought them. The scene discovered in the cave high in the Carpathian Mountains, the body of a dragon and the burned and blackened remains of 15th century warriors, this encounter is remembered in the folk history of the region. Dragon iconography, Romania, the stained glass windows of a medieval church. A winged creature that dwelled in remote mountain areas, raiding livestock and breathing fire. The story of the final conflict with the creature the locals called the Devil from the Mountain. Scientists autopsying the dragon body now begin to look for clues to how this conflict played out. A post-mortem analysis of the more than 500-year-old human remains is a quick study. The cause of death is seared into their parched, leathery skin. Carbon residue. These men were burned alive. But the dragon is a less straightforward investigation. While scientists have proved that this animal could breathe fire and that it was endowed with a sophisticated fire apparatus, what puzzles them is that it doesn't look like this particular dragon ever turned on its ignition. The mouth shows no sign of carbonized residue, no sign of any exposure to intense heat. For an animal that's supposed to breathe fire, this comes as a surprise. Earlier scans detected non-organic matter embedded in the right atrium of the heart. The cause of death for this dragon, now no longer a mystery. They remove an iron fragment. The fractured tip of a sword. But subsequent scanning gives them a shock. The reproductive system. Scientists are able to determine that the dragon is a female, yet there is no evidence of follicular activity. The reproductive tract is immature. This is only a young dragon. It was still a baby when it was killed. And if it didn't breathe fire, as the autopsy suggests, then that means something else killed the men found in the ice cave. Another dragon's fire torched those men. Scientists have discovered evidence that none of the legends has recorded. Dragons had parental care. Dragons guarded their young. It is the 15th century, and a mountain dragon is under siege. The distant ancestors of this female mountain dragon first emerged from the waters to the east, following the great mammoth caravans crossing over the plains below. But the mammoths have long since disappeared. Dragons are disappearing too. Human pressures have forced them into the highest and most remote parts of their range. The territory this female patrols is still just beyond the reach of humans. But food in this remote world is scarce. Today she's on a hunt for the rarest creature on Earth. But she's not looking for prey. She's looking for a mate. she leaves her scent throughout her territory. Strong winds carry the pheromones south. Normally, female dragons are reproductively mature by their 7th year. This female is nearly 23 years old, and in all her life she has never seen a male dragon. She may yet live another 20 years, longer if she's lucky. She's still at her peak, but if she's to contribute to the ebbing dragon population, she must find a mate soon. Young dragons remain with their mothers for as long as 6 years. Such an extended period of parental care historically ensured a high survival rate of their offspring. But now, with their numbers so low, dragons aren't reproducing fast enough to keep their population stable. The species is slipping away. The female returns to her den. It is a cave melted from dense glacial ice. Despite the freezing cold outside, in here the temperature is relatively warm. Like an igloo, the thick walls retain heat. But mountain dragons have other lines of defense against the cold, a heat-exchanging circulatory system, and a highly stratified layer of tissue under their scales help minimize heat loss. And from her marine ancestors, she's inherited a blood protein similar to that of polar fish. Specialized proteins found in this Antarctic ice fish prevent the formation of ice crystals in the bloodstream, so the blood continues to flow and the fish can remain active even in freezing water. This genetic inheritance has proved vital to mountain dragons as they retreat into ever more remote areas in their attempts to avoid humankind. Soon it will be fall, and the female will begin shutting down and going into torpor, slowing her metabolism during the coldest months of the year, another adaptation for life in this extreme environment. But something outside draws her attention. A sound both strange, yet uncannily familiar, brings her to the opening of the cave. Against the odds, a male mountain dragon has picked up her scent. He's a nomad who has wandered from the Atlas Mountains of North Africa, where mountain dragons have now all but vanished. Crossing into southern Europe, he's made his way to the Carpathians in search of a territory and a mate. The dwindling dragon population has driven this male on a 10-year quest to find a female, and now at last he has found her. The female's instinct takes over, and she does what her kind has done for thousands of years. In an age-old aerial display, she leads her suitor on. But her beguiling acrobatics serve another purpose, for this solitary and suspicious female is about to set the male the ultimate test. It is a courtship ritual that is as perilous as it is spectacular. At the height of her climb, she will lock talons with him and drop out of the sky in a dazzling free fall, just like bald eagle pairs still do today. And with their bond, a small flicker of hope for the continuation of the species. If dragons were real, if the legends were true, then the stained glass windows of a medieval church in Romania depict what happened high in the Carpathian Mountains over 500 years ago. The body of a dragon, unearthed with the remains of human warriors who had come to kill it. But that's not all that's been found. With the results of their autopsy, scientists have identified evidence that another dragon once lived in the ice cave where the dragon body was first located. They return to the discovery site, and there they make a discovery of their own. A nest. Further evidence of dragon parental care. Whatever killed the men found in the ice cave very likely lived in the ice cave itself, with its offspring. The female examines her nest. Rocks, wood, leaves, and ash, all tightly packed into a cone. Crocodiles bury their eggs in active compost to keep warm. Mountain dragons have a much more direct method. The eggshells have heat-resistant properties that can withstand intensely high temperatures. The developing dragon embryos inside are protected. But more dangerous to them than heat exposure is a drop in temperature. In fact, without this searing external heat, the dragon chicks inside would die. The rocks of the nest further shield the eggs from a direct blast, but crucially, they retain the heat, releasing it over a long period and keeping the internal temperature of the nest stable. If she is to become a mother after these many years of waiting, then careful and constant temperature control is essential over the 30-day incubation period. Her mate returns from hunting. He has been unsuccessful. Again. After mating, female dragons become more aggressive, programmed by instinct to be deeply suspicious of any creature approaching the nest, even a mate. In order to appease her and make up for the lack of food, he brings a gift. Another rock for the nest. Although short-tempered from hunger and lack of sleep, the gesture placates the female. She accepts the rock. The male can now enter the cave, and she will take her turn to hunt. And the male takes responsibility for the critical temperature control. Heat-sensitive cells in his tongue allow him to check the temperature. If it falls much below 60 degrees for any period of time, the embryos will die. Strangely, he starts to turn down the heat. The incubation temperature of the eggs determines the sex of the dragon offspring, exactly like crocodile broods. Cooler temperatures encourage the development of females. Males, even a son, will compete for territory, food, and breeding females. So the adult male decides to nip a potential rival in the bud. His instinct for self-preservation is hardwired into him. But it's a cruel twist of evolutionary fate that he's now creating an imbalance between the sexes that will push his species even further towards the brink of extinction. A day has passed before the female returns from yet another unsuccessful hunt. She is immediately agitated. The male is not at his post. She heads straight for the nest. Something is very wrong. The male has let the incubation temperature drop dangerously low. It is already too late for one of her chicks, but the other might survive. The male realizes his presence will no longer be tolerated. It's time for him to move on. Males are usually seen off the nest site much sooner, but our female is inexperienced. Now she must try to keep her remaining egg alive at all costs. But finding prey in this hostile environment takes time. She'll have to find an easier supply of food so she can stay close by her egg. She will have to raid the farms of men. Dragons. If the legends were true, if they had lived alongside us, then they would have been caught in the surging tide of human expansion. Environments altered to suit our needs. Habitats sacrificed to fit our purposes. Those creatures that can't keep pace must find their way on the fringes of our world. The female has indeed been driven to desperate measures because she now has more than one mouth to feed. This is her daughter, perhaps the last dragon ever born. Preying on livestock from the local farms, just as the myth chronicled, she has no way of knowing that in the act of providing for her young, she has made herself an enemy in the eyes of man. Simple farmers had tried to put a stop to the raids by themselves at first. But soon the duty to deal with the dragon fell to the local lord and his squire. Unaware of the price on her head, the female dragon continues to behave as her kind has for 1,000 generations. She mines the rock of this alpine cave for her precious platinum and passes on the secret of fire. Her daughter is learning. Soon she'll develop an instinctive appetite for platinum, but she's too young now and turns her nose up at it. After feeding upon another stolen sheep, mother and daughter bask in the sun's warmth. Their wings soak up heat like solar panels, yet another adaptation for life in this forbidding climate. They lie down together for a nap, sharing one another's body warmth. But soon the mother will have to hunt again, and her daughter will be left unguarded. The female searches for food. With summer once more drawing to a close, she and her baby need energy stores before they fall into torpor and shut down for the coldest winter months. Wild game is getting harder to come by as more people push into her territorial hunting grounds. A predator that once took down mammoths now gets by on plundered sheep. And now men have come to put a final stop to her scavenging. The Lord and his squire arrive, ready to face whatever lurks within. A creature that they believe is born of hell's fire. An evil that must be destroyed. They do not see a frightened animal, unable to defend itself. Like elephants, dragon mothers appear to mourn their dead. But the grieving will have to wait. In a final insult, the assassins wear the blood of her daughter as a trophy. They are about to feel the full vented fury of a vengeful dragon mother. The Lord will escape. His squire won't be so fortunate. With the loss of her daughter, the female mountain dragon has been brought into season again. Even after such a calamity, instinct compels her to look for a mate once more. So she tries to draw the male back into her territory. She hoards the armor from her daughter's assassin to embellish her display. Dragons are naturally attracted to reflective objects, likely because they're conditioned to look for shiny platinum deposits. But her calls and her scent marking will go unanswered. No amount of armor will help her summon the male back now. Chances are, he's no longer alive. Where would he have gone to escape human pressures? There's nowhere left to hide. As winter draws in and food is at its scarcest, the dragon begins shutting down. Like crocodiles in periods of drought, she is quite capable of getting through lean times. She'll survive the winter on her meager reserves of fat. Her body temperature drops dramatically, and she goes into suspended animation. But this survival strategy leaves her exposed. All her usual functions are placed on emergency status, and her hydrogen reserves fall to almost zero. The female is awakened from her torpor. Many humans have troubled her since her daughter's death, and now humans have come to trouble her once more. This time they are better prepared. Mercenaries paid for by the local lord. Dragon slayers. Without food, she can't make hydrogen. And without her precious gas, she cannot fly or breathe fire. She's trapped. A final clash between man and beast, in which none shall triumph. Over the years, the cave was sealed by snow and ice, the bloody battle frozen in time. The dragon faded from reality to mythology. Perhaps it would have stayed that way if the glacier hadn't given up its secrets at last. Echo scans reveal another chamber adjacent to the main cave, hidden behind a wall of ice. Scientists deploy a camera-mounted ROV to investigate. Inside, their suspicions are confirmed. They find more human remains, and they find the body of the adult dragon that lived in this cave and died here with her daughter. The last of a legendary line. A legend made flesh and blood. A creature that has fired our imagination for thousands of years. A creature that burns bright in the memory of all humankind. But if dragons were at last delivered from the realm of myth, then what would we find? What stories would they have to tell us? It is human nature to exaggerate what we fear, and so it is likely that we would have overlooked much about what dragons once were. They were soaring creatures that spouted fire. They sacrificed themselves so that they might save their young. They were, above all, creatures that did what they must in order to survive. How easy it would have been for us to forget that part of the story. How easy it would have been to forget that they must have been so much more than mere monsters.
This is an animal that we've breathed life into, and it breathes fire, and it flies, and it's real.
If I've done my job well, you will believe in dragons.
When you watch dragons, you will believe because the dragons look real, they feel real, and that's why I think you'll believe.
So who knows? Maybe they're still around.